I think we can just start the class. We are 2 now in number. Oh, we are 3 now. So you are all welcome to today's session, and I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday. I hope I'm audible. Am I audible, please?
Yes, sir.
Miss Ikilima, how are you?
I'm fine, sir.
Eid Mubarak.
Same to you, sir.
So based on the post I made on the group, today we are going to focus on session number 2. And session number 2 is about the survey of human-computer interaction practices. So Mr. Mohammed and Ms. Iklima, what have you done so far about this session? Have you gone through the session?
Sir, for me, no, sir, this is my first time joining the class. And I've not been receiving, I did my registration late. So, yeah, I've not been receiving notification. The
So
LMS.
practically,
So this
you have no idea what the course is about.
No, sir.
Mr. Mohammed, what can you say about session number 2? Mr. Mohammed, are you with us?
Yes, sir, I'm with you, sir.
So have you gotten the chance to go through the session number 2?
No, really, sir, not yet, sir.
How about Musa? Musa Rafiat. I hope I said the name correctly. Musa Rafiat. Welcome to the session. Have you gotten the chance to go through the study session? That is session number 2.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Welcome.
Yes, thank you, sir. No, not yet, sir.
So how are we going to study today? People don't go through the notes. How are we going to study? This is a tutorial. It's not like a lecture where I have to lecture from A to Z while you listen. It's supposed to be a kind of interactive session where we discuss on some of your challenges during your study. That is what tutorial is about. This is not a kind of lecture, stuff like in the name of lecturing. We are not lecturers, actually. We are tutors. We guide you. We enlighten you on some of the ideas you didn't understand. So how are we going to continue with the session if you didn't study it? I even sent you a screenshot indicating those sections and subsections that we need to cover. This is going to be very difficult on me, actually. If you are not studying, it's going to be very difficult. Let me check the group and see if people are joining.
Okay, sir.
You see, sometimes I always tell the computer science students that most of the computer science students are garbage and they feel insulted. And the truth is, if somebody who wants to become a computer scientist cannot log into a very simple application like this, then you can imagine how are they going to cope in the future. It's going to be very difficult for them, honestly. So this is why, as a computer scientist, you must not rely on what you are being taught in the class, but rather you have to also work on your own to achieve the best skills and practices required in the field. If you go anywhere in the world, the field of computing is not something that you have to rely on your tutor or your lecturer or whoever is guiding you. This is something that comes 50-50. We give you some lectures, to serve as guide while you also go and do your practicals so that you become better. If you look at some of the experts today around the world, those who have developed some of the most complex systems, we realize that they were either dropouts from university or they didn't even go to the university at all. So honestly speaking, you have to do so much better in terms of improving yourself. Otherwise, you graduate, but you know nothing. You are called a graduate of computer science, but you don't actually deserve to be called that name, because simple things like installing Office package on your computer you cannot do. I've seen many professors. Somebody is a professor in computer science, but they can't install Windows. They can't install just a very simple application. They cannot install. They have to call somebody to install for them. And all these are the result of your attitude when you were in school. You rely 100% on your lecturers to teach you. You don't go to other extra miles to develop some skills on your own. I remember when we were studying computer somewhere in 2008, we go to school in the afternoon, we come back home in the night, and we practice. I had a very small simulating environment in my room where I have to do all my practices and so on. And that was how we became very proficient in the field. So please do not rely on us 100%. Try to, get your skills by practicing and by joining communities where you can learn, where you meet experts, so that you boost your. So if you cannot hear me for a while, just wait, okay? Maybe sometimes the network goes off and on. So I will see a signal when there is a problem with the network, and I will just stop talking until the network is restored. So if you can hear me, please make a sign or make a jump. Somebody should turn on your sound. Just respond. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I can hear you.
All right. So we have 6 members in the session. I like to ask the question I asked previously: who have gone through the study session for the survey of human-computer interaction practices? Has anybody done so? Anybody? Has anybody the effort to try and study some of the sections and subsections within this study section? That is study section 2, survey of computer and human-computer interaction practices. That is the I'm talking about. Has anybody done so? Obviously not. This is going to be a lecture. It's not going to be a tutorial. By default, the session is supposed to be a tutorial where we go through some of your difficulties and try to clarify. But when you don't study on your own, then it's going to be very, very difficult for me as well, because I have to take my time to read some of those sessions. And obviously, we're having almost about 11 subsections to cover, which I believe hours is not enough. But people study, it becomes a little bit easy. We just go through them briefly and bring out some points. Honestly, you have to change your attitude. This is a distance learning study. In a distance learning study, it's not that you just have to go home and sit down without doing anything. We assume that when you open your books, it means you are going to school. Even though you are not going to the classroom, but by opening your books, it means you have gone to school. So please try to improve on that. So today we'll be looking at study session number 2, where we'll be discussing survey of human-computer interaction practices. And if you all have the textbook, I'm very sure you can open the page, which is page 40, 43, 44, 45, to see some of these sections and subsections that we'll be talking about. The class is going to be about some kind of historical background or some kind of overview on how human-computer interaction came to what it is today. Now, in the chapter, we'll begin with the first introduction, where it discusses the nature of interactivity. And when we activity, we're talking about the interactions between computer and humans, a kind of situation where humans create the activities through interaction with the system. We are made to understand that early computers use what was known as batch processing, which we discussed in our previous lecture. We discussed that this batch processing is a type of system processing where items are processed in groups rather than in chunks. So in the early computer system, users prepared inputs using what we call punch cards. That was in those days, or something called data files. Now, these punch cards were not electronic input devices. They were some kind of manual way of communicating or interacting with the system. And these were submitted to the computer and they were processed later. So it's not that it's not like the way we used to interact with our systems using a mouse or using a keyboard, where you just click and instantly the action happens. In those days, it was not like that. You have to submit your punch cards and then they are processed later by the system. And sometimes the user had to wait a long time before getting the output, because it takes the system a very long time to produce whatever it is that they want the system to produce. Now, modern systems are more interactive, as we all know, just like we have our phones right now. By just tapping on your screen, you can be able to open Facebook, you can be able to open Instagram, you can be able to send a letter or an email. So today, computers respond immediately to user actions, unlike in the past, where it took a very long time. User can just simply type or click or speak to the system or even touch the screen and get instant feedback, making the computer more effective, more efficient, and more friendly. Now, these days, as we all know, interactions with the system occurs through inputs and outputs, or let me say input and output devices. Now, when we say input devices, we're referring to those devices that we use in giving the system instructions to process before they can actually process the information. And when we talk about input devices, we're talking about our mouse, our keyboard, our touch screen, our microphones. What else? What else? Can somebody think of something apart from this distance I've mentioned? Anybody? Input devices. I've just mentioned keyboard, what do you call the other? Mouse, microphone, touch screen. What else? Anybody?
So what about camera, sir?
Camera. Okay. Camera, yes. Camera has an input and output device all together in one place. Okay.
So
These
what
are
about
I have a
joystick?
flash drive or a card reader.
a card reader is not an input device.
So what
Card
about a
reader
joy?
is not an input device.
What about a
A scanner,
joystick?
very good. A
Joystick.
scanner can be considered as an input device because we scan something and then it gives that thing into the system and the system now processes it, and then we can probably print it or we can save it for later use. So I think these are some of the example of input. While example of output include the monitor we are using, for our systems, the screen we have on our mobile phones, our printers also, yes, our speakers as well, they are also considered as output devices. Okay, so devices sometimes are determined in the style of interaction they use. Some devices can have a two-way kind of interaction environment. Some are touch screen in nature. We touch the screen and then it goes on. Some are kind of mouse-based systems that we control using our mouse. There are systems that don't recognize mouse, but rather they recognize keyboards. So there are different devices, and different devices use different types of interaction mechanisms. Now, moving forward, now let's have a look at the overview of computer system. Okay, now a computer system consists of components that support interaction between humans and computers. And if we want to talk about this components, we can say that these input and output devices fall under this category of what we call a computer system, because they put together, a number of devices to form input and output devices. Okay, and we used to enter data into our systems, as we know, using keyboards, mouse, touchpads, speech recognition softwares, or sometimes handwriting devices. There are devices we use for handwriting as well. If somebody has gone to the immigrations for an international passport, I'm very sure you must have come across that pad which they give to people to sign on a particular device, and then it appears on the screen. That is also considered an input device. Then we also have the output devices, which normally used in the display of results. For example, our monitors, our printers, and then the audio output, which is a speaker or a very huge loudspeaker. Now we have other interaction components, such as the latest or the most recent virtual reality devices. These are devices that bring people to reality, in the sense that, in a virtual reality environment, somebody can travel to another country without physically traveling there. There are conferences that we often hear on social media, or sometimes even see, where you see a professor appearing at a conference, giving a presentation or giving a talk using a virtual reality system, a system that creates a halo of that person to signify a virtual reality. Another interaction component are sensors. Now, even our mobile devices here, they have sensors. Our rooms, they have sensors. Our cars, the cars we drive, they also have sensors. And all these sensors play one or two roles in collecting information into our systems. For example, the sensors on our mobile device today, they can sense if there is a heat. They can sense if our hands are touching the screen, or if it is our pocket, or maybe some other parts of our body. Some phones are very, very kind of complicated and complex. When something touches the screen that is not the hand, automatically they don't respond. So these are the work of sensors. We also have storage and memory, which store our data temporarily or permanently. And then we have processing units, which is the central processing unit of our computers, which processes instructions that we give to the system. And then, of course, another interaction component is the network, which allows communication between computers and devices, or transfer of information from one place to another. Now, another category of interaction devices that we are talking about is that of what we call text entry devices. When we're talking about text entry devices, we're referring to our keyboards, or the screen that we use. Excuse me, I'm seeing a notification. It is indicating that the network is down. I don't know whether the network is down. Please, somebody should make a sign to me that I'm audible. Please.
We can hear you, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Okay. Somebody just mentioned that The network is totally down. You may not hear others. Okay, now I think the network is back. Please make some noise. Is the network back? Hi,
Yes.
students. Is the
Yes,
network
sir.
back?
We
All
can
right.
hear you.
So, as I was saying, we have text entry devices, and these text entry devices are what we call our commonly used keyboards, the keyboards that we use for entering data, whether on our mobile phones or on our physical computers. Now, if you know, some of you would know, I'm very sure, that we have different types of keyboard. We have what we call the QWERTY keyboard. Now, the QWERTY keyboard, is the most widely used keyboard layout. Okay, the nature of the layout of the keyboard is what makes it QWERTY. Now, if you look at the alphabets, you realize that they are arranged like QWERTY. That is QWERTY. We call it QWERTY. Now, this contemporary keyboard that we're using today is what we call QWERTY keyboard, because if you look at the arrangement, you realize that the arrangement of the keyboard starts with QWERTY. That is QWERTY. So it is actually named after the first 6 letters on the keyboard, and it is designed to prevent typewriters keys from jamming. Okay, that is one of the essence of introducing this keyboard. Now we have other alternative keyboards, such as what we call the alphabetic keyboard. The keys are just arranged alphabetically without following any order. Now, if I'm to give one of you this keyboard to use, I'm very sure you will find it very, very difficult to use, because we are used to using the QWERTY keyboard, so it's very difficult. We also have another keyboard called the Dvorak keyboard. It's also another type of keyboard. Common letters under dominant fingers. Okay, so sometimes it is used in the past, not anymore. These are just historical developments in the field of keyboard. They are no longer in use, but initially it was designed to improve the typing speed by 10 to 15%, which I believe has done that in the past. But the QWERTY keyboard is the best keyboard. We also have another type of keyboard called the spatial ergonomic keyboard. It's also another type of keyboard which is designed to reduce stress and injuries, but all these are in the past. We also have another type of keyboard known as the we call it the chord keyboard. Okay, and most of these keyboards, they use only 4 to 5 letters sometimes, or keys, and letters are typed using key combinations, and they are very small and portable. They are not as complex as the contemporary keyboards that we use, and they were mostly on mobile phones, those Symbian mobile phones that we used to use before, phones that have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then hash, then what do you call it? Star or asterisk. Okay. We also have another keyboard known as numerical keyboard, which is only used for entering numbers. Normally, we see numerical keyboards on security devices or in entry points where somebody has to enter password, numerical passwords, before they can be able to have access to a certain environment. Then we have what we call the T9 predictive text keyboard, which uses dictionary to predict words. So the moment you begin to type something, for example, when you want to type Joshua, so the moment you write JOS, before you even write HUA, it will just give you the complete word. So we call them T9 predictive text, and they are not very common these days. Moving forward, we are going to section 2 of 3, which is about handwriting recognition. Okay, now handwriting recognition is a much earlier technology that actually started not more than 10 years back, whereby somebody can actually use handwriting to send input instruction into a system. And I've just given you one example of handwriting recognition, which is the use of keypads in custom interviews for passports, where one has to write their signatures. But still, many instructors today, people who are teaching, who are into teaching, they use this kind of handwriting recognition software to write something on top of a surface, and then it appears on the screen. So normally when you write using your handwriting, there is a system that converts that handwriting to a digital text. And some of the devices that today use this kind of handwriting recognition include tablets and PDA. PDA are some kind of personal devices that are usually used by the law enforcement and people who are always using devices for maybe people who use maps, or maybe people who use what should I say? People who can easily reach out to a text message or to a file using the PDA devices. Honestly speaking, PDA devices are not very common today. Some of you who are born in 2000, honestly, you will not know what a PDA device is. I don't know if I can show you a picture of a PDA device. Let me see if I can see one. It's very important for you to see, because PDAs are no longer in use actually, even if they are in use, but it's not a very common method of use. People are using them for something special. For example, the terrorists are using PDA machines so that they can through securities. Let's see a PDA device. Let's see a PDA. So these are PDA devices, okay? They come with a pen, with an electronic pen, which somebody can just use for typing or for pointing, okay? So these are the example of PDA devices. We also have tablets, which I believe you all know. Tablets are very, very common these days. Now, what is the fact about these handwriting recognition systems? Now, most of the systems today are influenced by the introduction of artificial intelligence, because with the use of AI today, we create a lot of systems that recognize human handwriting. So we have achieved a lot of things in this era of handwriting through the use of artificial intelligence. Although it comes with so many challenges, and some of the challenges includes the inability to recognize certain handwritings. For somebody like me, my handwriting is not very good. I know that for sure. My handwriting is not very good. So even if I write, it end up, I end up laughing at myself. So some of these handwriting recognition systems, they find it really difficult to recognize certain alphabets or certain keywords. So sometimes it leads to recognition error, or it affects the performance of the recognition system by making it very slow in detecting some of these handwritings. Now, moving to the next section, we'll be talking about speech recognition. Now, when talking about speech recognition, usually users speak commands or text, and then the system picks up that information and then convert it into a digital data, and then digital data into processing data. So in the end, we have an input through a speech recognition. And one of the things about speech recognition is that it uses a very limited amount of devices, because we cannot use mouse or we cannot use a keyboard for speech recognition. We have to use special type of devices, such as microphones. We have to use a microphone as a conveyor, as something that carries the speech from one point to another. So it is very important to acknowledge the use of microphones in conveying this kind of information. And today we have got so kind. Even the Microsoft Office system that we use today, they have the option, or they have the feature for dictation. Now, in the past, if you want to type a project, especially if you run a business center, you have to sit down and spend hours writing using keyboards. But today I can just open my dictate function, and I'll just be dictating the information to my Microsoft Office, and it will automatically convert it to digital data or digital alphabets. This is a remarkable development in the field of human-computer interaction. Although there are issues, sometimes there are problems on the way. One of them is noise interference. Sometimes you realize that during the transfer of information or during the transmission of information, we encounter noise. And if there is noise in the background, it's very difficult for the system to capture the real data. So in the end, we end up having error in the speech recognition. Likewise, another issue is the issue of pronunciation. Some people pronounce words in the wrong way. I'm giving you an example. Now, if I ask you to dictate the word procedure to a system, no system will get it correct, because it is we Nigerians that we call it procedure, but the right pronunciation is procedure. Procedure, that is the right pronunciation. Now, another example is the example of president. We say president. Now, no computer will take a dictation if you call the word president, because the word is president, president, okay? Another example is whenever we want to use words like words that end with shon, or words that end with cho. For example, we say culture, premature, okay? This cho is wrong. So we say culture. It's not culture, it's culture. You know, there are times when people used to laugh at President Buhari when he spoke English. Buhari knows how to pronounce the words correctly, but most Nigerians don't know the correct pronunciation. Buhari attended a British school, so his pronunciations may sound very, very awkward to many of us. My dad as well, he was, he attended his primary school under the white people. He attended secondary school under the white people, and even his university under white people. So people like them, I'm very sure some of your parents as well, they speak English, you know, in the best and most awesome way. But we, the generation, today's generation, we don't pay attention and we don't listen when our teachers are teaching. We end up missing those words. So there are a lot of words in English that we mispronounce. That mispronunciation could cause what we call pronunciation variation. Now, a typical Nigerian will say variation, variation, but it's not variation, it's variation, variation. Okay, so another thing is the issue of accent. Now, when the accent is different, sometimes the speech recognition system fails to understand the person's instruction because of the accent. So if the system is, for example, set to recognize British accent and you start using American accent, there's going to be a problem. For example, let me repeat what I've just said. There's going to be a problem. There is going to be a problem. It means I'm speaking American English. But when I say there is going to be a problem, it means I'm speaking British. So English has a lot of accents, and people need to adjust their accents to suit the speech recognition system. Now, moving forward, we are going to talk about what we call positioning, pointing, and drawing devices. Positioning, pointing, and drawing devices. These are special type of devices used for human-computer interaction. which are usually handheld, and we are using them for positioning, or sometimes pointing, or sometimes drawing. Okay, so these are also modern ways of communicating with our systems or interacting with our systems. The first example is the example of mouse. Mouse is one of the advancements in the field of technology, which I believe has changed the interaction paradigm of the computer interaction field, because it has made things much, much, much easier. Now, if I ask you this question, how many of you can actually control your system without having to touch your mouse even once? I'm very sure most of you cannot. Because to even master your keyboard, to even know how to manipulate your system without a mouse is a very, very staggering skills. It requires a lot of skills. And I can tell you, I can use my system 99% without a mouse, because there are times when our father will just, seize the mouse so that we don't use the system, not knowing that we are also good at using the keyboard because we learn to use the keyboard. So it's very important for you to also learn how to use the keyboards, so that sometimes when the mouse is not working or the system does not have a mouse, you can actually use a keyboard for interaction. There are computers we call server machines. Server machines are dedicated computers that provide services to other devices or other computers within the network. Now, sometimes these server machines, they do not come with mouse, because this is for security reasons, actually. We don't allow people to have access to them directly, so we remove the mouse intentionally. So you have to know how to use this kind of devices. So devices like mouse come with what we call pointers. They also have what we call the cursor. Now, some of you would call it cursor. You see another mispronunciation. The right word is cursor. Cursor is spelled C-U-R-S-O-R, cursor. So we call it the cursor. And the beauty of the mouse is that it detects movement using a mathematical equation. We call it the X to Y direction, or the X to Y axis. This is how it works. And we also have something called the mechanical mouse. A mechanical mouse uses a ball. I don't know if some of you have used the mechanical mouse before, because I've used it. Yes. I owned my first computer in 1998. That was the first time I owned a computer, 1998. My dad traveled to US and he brought me that as a gift. And my first system was a Microsoft IBM. It came with Windows 95. Yes. So the mouse was actually a mechanical mouse, and it uses a ball. Let me see if I can show you an example of this mouse. You will like it. It's going to be interesting. Let's see how quick the network will allow us to open. Ball mouse has one disadvantage. The disadvantage is that when the ball gets dirty, you can't use it. You have to remove the ball. You have to soak it inside a spirit. The spirit will wash it. Then from there, you can be able to continue to use it. Ball mouse. Let's see. Okay. I guess I've gotten one. Let's open this one. So this is an example of a ball mouse, or sometimes we call it a mechanical mouse. As you can see, there's a ball inside. So this ball, when it gets
I've
dirty,
used it before,
or when
sir.
it is,
When
you have
that
used
was
it before, but how old are you,
2003.
ma? How old are you? How old are
I'm
you?
40 years
I'm
plus
sorry to
now.
ask. Ma, you see, this is our Gen Zs. I don't think they have ever seen this kind of keyboard before. I'm very sure.
I've used it when I was learning computer at that time.
I've seen
Yes,
it.
this is what we call you have seen it also. How old are you? How old are you? You must be 40 plus, right?
No, sir.
Because I think even people in their early 30s cannot actually. You see what I was telling you. So you have to learn how to take care of it. When you are using this kind of mouse, you have to soak it inside spirit or inside a very clean detergent so that you can remove all the dirt and then it can go back to its original form. Now, another example of keyboard is the one, mouse is the one that we call today an optical mouse, which uses optical light to serve as the controller or to serve as the bowler that controls the mouse movement. All this type of mouse that we use today, they're actually what we call the optical mouse. They have this light, this red light, that help in moving the mouse from one direction to another. Yes. We look at another type of mouse known as, oops, I've just turned off the screen. Let me turn it back again. We have another type of mouse. We call it the trackball. Trackball is also using a ball inside, but it's very old. It's one of those early mouse that were used before the mechanical as well as the optical mouse. Let's see if our network will open this thing early. Guys, I hope you are enjoying this lecture. I hope, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We are
Yes, sir.
enjoying it.
Yeah. All right. The network, Nigerian network these days, especially during holidays, everybody is on social media gossiping, seeing whose husband looks good or wife look beautiful. That's what most people are doing online these days, to check and see how people are living their lives. So this is why they are consuming our network. Just a simple class. What do you
I said that's
say?
why we are using Wi-Fi so that we can get good network.
So another thing that I observe is many people have migrated to MTN. We no longer have competitors, using other network than MTN. So it's making it more generative,
Actually,
more crowded.
our Nigerians would rather spend their money building houses rather than investing. This is a very good business. If somebody can actually subscribe to, what do you call it, Starlink, become a subscriber of Starlink. We have different types of ISPs, that's internet service provider. We have the first tier, second tier, and the third tier. Now, if you as a student can work under the tier 3, you can actually get access to Starlink, and then you also produce your own devices or gadgets, and then you'll be selling this network to people. Nigeria will have an unlimited availability of network. But look at this now. The only 3 networks that we have today in Nigeria are MTN, Glo, and then probably Airtel. Airtel is doing well, no doubt, but MTN, there are so many people on MTN. Just yesterday, MTN announced that they are going to buy one company like that. I sent them a message. I said, please, before you buy that company, why can't you fix the current Nigerian network so that we can enjoy our money? Otherwise, sometimes you recharge your phone, and then half of the money will be gone wasted. You buy data and the data is not in use because of the network problem, and they will not refund your data in the end. So this is why we need to have more competitors, people who can invest in the business of telecoms. Dangote wanted to do something like that, but unfortunately, he is not a technical person, so he didn't succeed in bringing Dangote Telecommunications. Otherwise, the guy is good at managing things. How I wish Dangote would consider bringing something like this. Although you guys that are into computing now, you have the chance to bring something good like this. My network is not very good, so let's just continue to the next option. Now, when we are talking about this trackball,
Hello, sir.
like I said,
Hello,
it's
sir.
similar to. Yes, go ahead.
Please, sorry, sir, for distracting the class. So I feel like some people are complaining in the group that they are unable to join in the group.
Don't mind them. Don't mind them. When we finish the lecture, I will send them the video. They can just watch the lecture later on. So we are recording the session actually.
Okay, all right, sir.
just help me tell them that we are recording the session. Anybody who missed can actually watch the session later on. So this ball is actually a very old type of mouse. It also has a ball that rotates within the fingers. The ball is not below the mouse, but rather we're using the ball to control the movement of the keyboard. Okay, but there are people who use it till date to play games or to control certain devices such as drone. Even till date, there are a lot of people who use that kind of trackball mouse to control their drones. Now we also have another type of device we call the joystick. Now joystick looks very much like the gear in our cars. You know, our car has a gear, the one we use to drive, to park, or to reverse, and so on. Now it looks more like a gear, so this is why we call it a joystick, and it allows you to control something bi-directional or omnidirectional. When we say omnidirectional, it means you can go any direction without any limitation. And till date, people are using joysticks for playing games, and people are using joysticks for simulation. Now, just last year or last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken, there was this incident of a submarine. They call it the Titan submarine. The Titan submarine took 4 people to the depth of the Atlantic Ocean. There's a place called the Mariana Trench, where the Titanic ship wrecked. So the remains of the Titanic ship are actually down below the Mariana Trench. So that submarine was actually controlled by what we call a joystick, which is very, very unfortunate. Some people said it was a gamepad, but still there are aspects of the submarine that was controlled using this type of device. Another type of device is what we call the touchpad, and I've mentioned the touchpad many times since we started this lecture today. And I said that touchpad allows you to write on top of something, or it allows you to use the surface of something to move your fingers, and through the movement of your fingers, you are able to control the pointer or whatever it is that you are controlling. So touchpad, normally, they are like a surface, a very sensitive surface that we use in controlling certain things. We can see an example of touchpad on our laptops. You know, our laptops come with a mouse, but it is not like the mouse that we used to hold before. But this mouse is just a surface where you just place your fingers, and then you keep moving the fingers until you get your result. We also have another input device known as the touch screen. Now, touch screen needs no elaboration, because each and every one of us here is touching his screen right now, and through touch screen, we're able to interact with our mobile devices. Now, another type of device is called the light pen. Light pen is also an example of input device which helps in drawing, writing signatures, interactions with certain screens, and so on. So normally the light pen comes with a beam light. When I say a beam light could be a leather light. A leather light is a red light that is used for pointing at objects, and it produces an emission, and that emission helps in providing whatever input we need to provide. So that is called a light pen. Normally it works on a surface, something, or on a screen. So we'll move to the next section, where we'll be talking about the next topic, which is display devices. Now, when talking about display devices, as we all know, display devices are devices that help us bring out the output of our input so that we see the result of our input. Whenever we type on our keyboard, we see it on a display device. Now, these display devices, they actually come in various forms and in various shapes. For example, they come in different colors. Now, these colors are presented using different technologies. Now, let's start with the first one, which is the bitmap screen. Now, a bitmap screen is a type of screen that is made up of pixels. And what are pixels? Pixels are dots, okay? Pixels are dots. There are millions of dots that form what we call an image today. Now, this image could be a higher resolution image, it could be a lower resolution image, depending on the number of pixels. When a device has 1,000 pixels, you cannot compare the sharpness of the resolution compared to a device that supports 10,000 pixels. So the more pixels, the higher the resolution. The lower the pixels, the lower the resolution. That is how screen works. Now, we have different type of screens, and there are about 2 of them. We have what we call the CRT, which is the cathode ray tubes. Cathode ray tubes. Now, these CRT screens, they are the kind of screens that we used to use in those days on our televisions. Now, if you can remember, we don't used to have flat televisions that we have today. If you remember, those TVs that we used in the past, they had a back, a very big back, you know, like Inyash. They have Inyash. Okay, we can call it Inyash. Yeah. So these CTR tubes, they are very heavy and they are very bulky, and they have a lot of radiation. Now, let me tell you something very funny. If we are still using those TVs to date, most of us will die of cancer because they are producing a very high radiation, which is very bad for the body as well as bad for the eyes, and they consume high power. Just imagine putting those TVs in your own house today when you have solar. Your solar will be consumed within 10 minutes because they consume power. Now, later on, there was a development, and we have what we call the LCD. Now, the LCD means liquid crystal display. Now, the LCDs, they are considered thin or thinner. They are also considered lighter in terms of the weight, and they consume low power, and there is no radiation effect, and they have less issues when contact with the eyes. So some of the example of devices that today use the LCDs include our laptops, our phones, our TVs, and our tablets. How do you know something is LCD? When you put your finger on top of an LCD device, you realize that something like water moves inside. It looks very jelly in nature, like a gel. Okay, they look very jelly in their form. Okay, so this is what we call the LCD, but they are no longer. They are the ones in use right now. So we're done with the issue of display, and let's move to the next topic, which is the print technology. Now, print technology needs no introduction because we all know that our printers are what we use today to print the output of whatever input we give the system onto a paper. So our printers, they take papers and they produce the output of our input. And these printers, they come in various types, various shapes, various sizes, various mechanisms, and so on and so forth. We have what we call the dot matrix printers, which use pins and ribbons to produce dots on a paper, and then these dots become the handwriting, or they become the content. They are considered one of the oldest form of printers. We also have what we call the inkjet printers, the printers that use ink in printing. Now, even today, I can proudly say that ink printers are not very common these days because we're using laser printers. At least these laser printers are actually using what we call toner. They're using toner or something that looks much like a powder. They use a toner powder for printing, and they have high resolutions, and they are very fast in printing. And these are the kind of printers we are using today. Now, another example of input device is the scanner. As we all know, the scanners convert documents into digital formats. And we also have different type of scanners. Some, they come with scanner and printer together. We have the ones that are handheld. We have the ones that are flat. They also have different quality and resolution types. And as we know, we use them for scanning documents, scanning images, or sometimes using the scanner for what we call the OCR text conversion. That is scanning something that is written, okay? Now, when you scan something that is written, the scanner will convert it into a digital form so that you don't have to type everything from scratch. That is it. Now, moving forward, we'll be looking at memory interaction. Now, when talking about memory interaction, we're actually talking about the storage facilities that we use in storing our information. Whatever information we input into our system, it is actually saved inside a memory. And when talking about memory, one must acknowledge that memories come in different forms. We have what we call short-term memories. We have what we call long-term memories. Now, short-term memories are example of our RAMs, that is our random access memory. Now, random access memory, as we all know, we call it a volatile memory. When we say a volatile memory, it means a memory that does not hold data for a very long time. It means whatever information it holds, it only holds it for a very short period of time. Now, a volatile memory is so volatile that if you are to put something in a volatile memory, then turn off the device, then automatically that data is erased because it only holds the data temporarily. And this is why we call it a short-term memory. And RAM is one of the example of volatile memories, okay? Or is one of the example of short-term memories. RAM means random access memory. Now, we also have the long-term memory. Now, the long-term memory is considered permanent. An example of this are our hard disks. Our computers use hard disks for storing data. Now, what is the hard disk? The hard disk is that thing that we insert at the back of our system. It looks a little bit big. And when we open the system, they come in drive C, drive D, drive F. They come in various partitions. So this is what we call a long-term memory. Flash drive and memory cards can also fall under the category of long-term memory. Optical disc as well, such as the CD and the DVDs, as well as even the Blu-rays. They all can be considered long-term memories. Then we have virtual memory. Now, what is a virtual memory? Now, a virtual memory is a type of memory that we create from a physical memory. Okay? Now, let me see if I can give you an example that you can understand. Now, let's say my computer has 1 terabyte of memory, okay? And I want to use some part of this memory to serve as my RAM, okay? Maybe I have just 8 GB of RAM. And what I'm giving you now is a very realistic process. It has happened and it is happening. And even right now, I'm using it on some devices. Let me use a little bit of small space so that you can understand. Let me not go deep. Let's say I have my phone here and my phone has 120 GB of long-term memory, which is the brain of the system, right? The brain of the mobile phone is 128 gigabytes, okay? But the RAM, that is my short-term memory, is only 4 GB, and it's not enough. I'm using my phone for cryptocurrency mining. I'm using it for stock investment, and so on and so forth. Now, you can imagine this memory is too small for me. So what do? I now use my existing 128 GB memory, which is my long-term memory. Then I can actually borrow some part of it to be used as a random access memory, as a temporary memory. Maybe I can borrow 8 GB so that I can top it with my 4 GB, okay, making 12 GB in total. So when you use some part of the memory to solve a problem, we call it a virtual memory. So these are what we call virtual memories. Now we also have storage format. Storage formats are signifying how we store our data into our memory or into our memories, okay? Now, as we all know, we have different types of data. We have text data, we have media data, we have video data, and so on. Now, when we are talking about text data, we're talking about data that is written in text form. And even the text format can actually come in different shapes. We have the numbers, we have the alphabets, we have the alphanumerics, we have the special characters. We also have what we call the encoded data, a data that uses something called the HCI, okay? We also have XML data. They are also considered as data and so on. Now, if we look at the media format usually comes in form of images, audios, videos. And as we all know, even the images, they come in different formats. We have the JPEG, we have the GIF, we have the TIP. All these are examples of images. And each image has its advantage and disadvantage. Then we have the audio files, which comes normally in MP3 or MP2. Then we have the video files, which come in MPEG, that is media peg, or WAV, that is WAV. Okay. Now, the next concept we'll be talking about is the concept of processing network interaction. How do we process, or how do we interact with our network? Now, when talking about network interaction, network is a very huge system of interconnected devices. When we say a system of interconnected devices, it means all the devices are connected together by either a single spectrum or multiple spectrums. Okay, so network interaction is very wide and it requires a lot of gadgets in order to achieve that. Now, when talking about processing network interaction, the first thing that comes to our mind is processing speed issues. Now, when talking about speed issues, we're talking about how data travels over the internet or over the network. Sometimes they are slow, sometimes they are fast. Now, what determines a data to be fast or slow can actually be affected by the infrastructure of the network itself. We also have something we call the buffer input delay. Sometimes when you are watching something on YouTube, you realize that it doesn't come out directly or it doesn't come out immediately. You have to wait. It goes through something called buffering. That buffering is a system of loading data so that it creates a delay in the data transmission. So these are very important aspects of processing speed in the network. Now, in talking about this, there is something called the Moore's law. Now, Moore is a researcher that existed between 1950s to 1965. And we consider Mr. Gordon
Hello,
Moore.
sir. There's breaking transmission. I don't know if it's from my end only.
Is there
Some
any
point
break in my transmission?
Yes,
Is
sir.
there any break
It's from your
in my
side.
transmission?
It's from your side.
It's from
We
my
can
side,
hear you
right?
clearly.
Now, is it hard now?
No, sir, it's not from your side. It's from his own end.
Because obviously This WebEx has a very complex system that will tell me when the network is down. And according to WebEx, my network is full and my voice is very clear according to WebEx. So if you are having issue, I think it's from your side. Some of you're having a downtime probably, but I apologize for any inconvenience. What I was just talking about is actually about what we call processing and network interaction. And we say that processing and network interaction is another aspect of human-computer interaction that defines how computers communicate with humans over the network. This is what this section is all about. And something is very important or is very particular in this discussion is the discussion about processing speed. Now, we say that when processing speed, sometimes speed can be affected by response, whether the other system or whether when you request for information, whether the system is providing the information at the appropriate time or there's a delay. Now, this delay is something we call buffering. Buffering is spelled B-U-F-F-E-R-E-D, buffering. Now, when using, sorry, did I say ED? It's not ED actually, it's ING, buffering. Okay, so when you are watching a YouTube video, sometimes it so happens that you face some delay before you get the video. It keeps loading, and that loading process is what we call buffering. Now, in trying to tackle this issue, there is a man or there's a professor who was considered Gordon Moore, who was a co-founder of Intel. I believe everybody here knows Intel. If you don't know Intel, you should resign or you should quit from this class, because Intel are those people who produce your computer processor. Okay, we call them Intel. So this guy, he noticed a pattern that processor speed doubles every 18 months. Okay, so it means that the more people use the systems, processors speeds are doubling. Okay, so this guy, he came up with some ideas that define what we call today the gigahertz speed. Sometimes we measure our processor speed in terms of gigahertz. Okay, so this is the guy that actually introduced the idea of memory capacity increasing and then storage size increasing as well, because the more users we have, the more capacity we consume, the more size we consume. So this guy suggested the idea of what we call gigahertz as a measurement for what we call processor speed. Now, another aspect is the aspect of networked computing. Now, when we talk about networked computing, we are actually talking about a computing that involves sharing of resources over the network. And these resources could include emails, chats, media files, audio files, and so on and so forth. So when talking about network computing, there are a lot of protocols involved. Although we are not at the liberty to discuss a lot of them, but one thing that I would like to discuss with you is the TCP, which is Transmission Control Protocol, which is a protocol that operates on the lower level and the top level or higher level of our networks. We also have protocols such as Internet Protocol, which is IP, which is also another protocol that works on our network. So when we put TCP and IP, we have what we call the TCP/IP protocol. We also have other protocols such as the OSI. OSI is a model that represents network as a form of layer. The network comes in several layers. So that is what we call the OSI model. So moving forward, we have what we call the email as well as the HTTP. And as we all know, the HTTP is the hypertext transmission protocol, which help us build websites as well as interactive pages that we use for accessing information over the internet. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think with this, we come to the end of today's discussion under this very section, which is section number 2. I believe in our next session, we'll be talking about study section number 3, which is basic components of human-computer interaction, where we'll be talking about different interaction models, as well as common interaction styles, and so on and so forth. So my prayer to you, my request to you, ladies and gentlemen, is that please, if you go home, find time to study these materials so that when we come to the class next, we can actually have a fruitful discussion where you people understand what you have studied, while I also contribute to that understanding. So to this end, I will open the floor for any kind of question or any kind of contribution. Thank you very much for listening. My ears are ready to listen to your questions. Yes, students, I'm listening. Question.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Yes, good evening, Mr. What's your name?
It's Shadrach.
Okay, Shadrach. Mr. Shadrach, what do you have? Is it a question or a contribution?
Sir, it's a question about the materials that you sent.
Okay, let me.
I opened the. I don't know the one that we should focus on, because the thing is a kind of confusing. The material,
Really?
I don't know the one that we focus on. We focus more.
I shared it in the group. I'm using exactly the same material as I shared in the group. And this is the material issued to us by the DLC. And let me see the cover. It says Distance Learning Center, Ahmadu Bello University, course 206, Introduction to Human Computer Interaction.
It's not the ABU own, the one that you sent, your own.
It's not the ABU. Are you sure?
Like there is the one you sent for us.
I think you are confusing the materials. I actually sent you the course material and then addition of 2 books. Those 2 books are just textbooks, and they are for your personal consumption. Okay. So actually, you should check the group. I sent 3 materials, the course material, as well as 3 additional references for your personal consumption. That was what I did. So I hope this clarifies your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Any other question, ladies and gentlemen? Any other question? Any other question? Top. In the absence of question, then we'll call it a day. Okay. Good evening. Good evening. How are you?
So please, fine, sir, how is, should I say it's a request? So I want to just be as in when you are lecturing, then you'll be showing us the slide on your screen so that it will make it easier for us. And is it easier or fun? Yes, I know.
So the problem
Because
is
it's
that
somehow
I'm
fun.
using my mobile phone. And as old as I am right now, it will be very difficult for me to read note from my book. So what I'm doing is I open it on my laptop so that I can be able to see it clearly. So maybe what we do next is, before we start the class, everybody will open the book or will open the course material on their phone, so that while I'm reading, you can also be reading. And Ms. Iklima, this tutorial is supposed to be something that you have already studied, okay, before coming to the class, so that whatever I'm discussing, automatically you just get my points without wasting much time. But because you people don't study at home, this is the main reason why you are finding it very difficult. Mr. Aliba, please, can you turn on your mic? Because I think
please
it's causing
mute
us
your mic,
trouble.
Jare.
Mute your mic, please.
Pariwo.
I'm even trying to mute you, but I can't. All right. So like I was saying, okay, next time maybe what we should do is try to open the course material so that we can synchronize a session. But honestly, it's going to be very tough for me to open it on my mobile phone. I hope this is okay, class. Anybody with a complaint?
Yes.
So,
Thank you very
so
much.
try to do that next time, okay? If somebody is still complaining about the course material, I can share the course material again right now. Anybody complaining? Anybody? So, guess no other issues. So, guys, I thank you so much for attending. And this session will be posted on your what do you call it, LMS, so that anybody who likes to watch again can go and watch. Meanwhile, you can have your notes while you are watching the video, so that you can, extract some of the points. I also want you to know that while reading, I have to also jump certain things because it's so bulky and we can't complete it in 2 hours. So this is why I have to just quickly summarize it so that it can be readable. Otherwise, this will take us 3 hours to complete. I hope you understand. So
yes,
thank you so much. And I guess we meet on Thursday. So see you on Thursday, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you
Thank
rate
you.
the class, please? Can you rate the class in the scale of 1 to 10? Class, can you rate the class in the scale of 1 to 10?
Perfect. The network here is very okay compared to Zoom and
Perfect.
LMS.
10.
No complaint.
No complaints.
Scale of 1 to
Thank you
10.
very much.
We suggest
I
the
rate
app
it 8.
today.
I rate it us.
I rate it 9.5.
We
Thank
suggest
you
the
very
app
much.
for other tutors.
All right. Thank you very much. So good night, everyone.
Good night, sir.
Good night, sir.
Good night, sir. All the best.